Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back, it's Jordan here. Today we're going to be working on a LEGO City building, and that of course is the hospital. So I've had this in the LEGO City before, not as of late though. It's actually been stashed away under the table, and that's because it needs to be upgraded. So we're going to be attempting to upgrade it today. I actually don't mind the look of it. I love the trans blue windows. Also this red column with the H, and also the colors I think work. The white and red just sort of makes sense. It's a classic hospital color scheme, right? Not a huge fan of these walls right here. Yeah, those don't really look too good. They're just sort of flat, sort of boring. And if they're presented like in the wrong angle in the LEGO City, then they just come quite predominant and are sort of an eyesore. Also, this garage here, it's cool that we have a garage for the ambulance, but look, the ambulance actually doesn't even fit inside the garage, so that doesn't really make sense. Also, there's nothing on top of the garage, so there's this huge wasted space, although I don't really mind the L shape of the hospital. But either way, I gotta try and upgrade this thing so we can put it back in the LEGO City, because I'm currently working on the skyscraper district, and I think it would be a great addition to that area in the city. So as of right now, the hospital does not have much of an interior. In fact, the top 3 floors are completely empty. The ground floor has a doorway that you can use to access the ambulance. However, you probably won't fit in because the ambulance can't even fit in there. There's a little waiting area and then also a little concession stand. The second floor has some details as well. Most of these details were actually extracted from a little LEGO City hospital set, and they're actually pretty good. I definitely like them. But that's pretty much all of the interior details. I really like this actually, the light brick. When you press that button, will shine through the 1x2x2 glass panel, and these glass panels have different images on them and they'll project onto the wall. So that's actually a really cool function. I definitely want to keep that. Eventually I want to add some more interior details to the hospital. What parts do I have to do that? I'm not sure. Maybe I'll have to look at these and see if I can replicate or duplicate some of them, I guess, just to add more details to the other floors of the hospital. But first, I've got to come up with an all-new exterior design. So pretty much got to start from scratch here. I've got to take everything off of this Mills plate and redo it all. That includes all the walls, all the tiles, pretty much all the plate that supports the Mills plate. Oh my gosh, I built this so long ago, and it was not built very well. I actually built it during a live stream. Big shout out to everyone who was at the live stream. I built it during a charity live stream for Men's Health. It was during Movember, and I actually called it the J Coppet Hospital because he was so generous when it came to donating for that cause. So I've got to rebuild this just because it needs a new design. My skyscrapers have officially been in set approximately 4 studs, just because I find it's better when those windows, or buildings that have windows on all 4 sides, I find it's better when they're in set, just so that those windows aren't pressed up against another building, and these tall buildings actually have breathing room. So you can see that I've actually wiped out pretty much almost half of the base plate, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a drive-through for the ambulance. So rather than a garage, it's going to be a pull-through. So there's actually going to be 2 doors on the main floor there. Both are going to be sliding doors. One will be like the front entrance for the public, and then the other one will be the entrance for the ambulance. Just trying to figure out the configuration of this was very important. Getting the spacing right for the glass panels, just so they're not overlapping, and then also getting the spacing correct for the pillars between them. Should they be 2x2 or 1x2 or 2x3? I want to have the red column next to the door, keep that original design. How do I want to get that working? How tall do they need to be? Should there be a layer of light gray plate, and then a layer of slopes, and then a layer of a stripe of red, and then the white columns and the blue windows? And just sort of getting the math of everything correct took me a long time. In addition, I want to add some more details to this build. I don't really want to add a staircase, just because staircases take up so much space, and so do elevators, but I am going to do the Daily Bugle trick for this, and I am actually going to add an elevator. Now, it's not actually going to be a functioning elevator, it's just going to be some tiles that are actually snot mounted in spot, and I think those are going to run through the entire building. Now, getting the sliding doors installed correctly was a little bit of a trick. Like, there is this modified, like, 1x plate. It's almost like 2 studs wide that do a great job of adding the track. And it's actually a concept from the original set. But what I wanted to do was try and add another layer of glass panels to the bottom floor, just so it makes the bottom floor taller. And I wanted to keep that red line continuous, and it goes actually right above the sliding glass doors. So that was actually tricking me a little bit, because the piece that actually holds the glass sliding door in spot, the one I was just talking about there, is white. So I actually had to switch that to red, but I didn't have any red ones. So I actually had to come up with my own way to sort of have those glass doors inset on a track and make sure that they don't fall inward or outward. And I also had to have it so that they could adapt to the glass panels, because I wanted to have the original layer of glass panels and then a red line and then another layer of glass panels, so that this is 2 glass panels tall, just to give our ground floor more height. I think that's a good way of sort of cheating to add height to this building, and I also just think it makes it look a little more grand, because I don't want the ground floor to be the same height as the other floors. Once I get that all figured out, it's time to do a little bit of cleanup and tile off the sidewalk, and then also start to tile off the road. So I'm actually doing this using 2x2 plate and then a layer of plate, and then I'm tiling it all off so it's actually the same height as the roads in the Lego city. And then I had to make one modification to the panels where the elevator is. I had them as like the regular colors, the white with the red line, but I decided to make them solid light gray so it looks more elevator-like from the exterior. And then I actually have to add some pillars that are actually going to support the top floors on the left side of the ambulance driveway. So here we have the ground floor. I think it's looking pretty good. I love the fact that it's double the height. We've got those pillars there because those are actually going to support the next floors. So the next floors are going to be wider. Inside's still colorful. There's no interior, but you can see the elevator detail there. Lots more window glass in this design, which I'm extremely happy with, and I really love the pull through for the ambulance. So we're off to a great start. Now that I've got a solid foundation, it's time to start building the next floors. Pretty much got to scrap this big behemoth. Look how terrible that is. Oh my gosh, that plate work is brutal. And I cannot wait to improve it. So you've probably seen the mess on my desk get pretty bad. Well, it's about to get a lot worse, because I've got to extract all the parts from the old build to rebuild the new hospital. And you know what? As always, I am not referring to any source material, no instructions, no digital designer, just doing this right off the top of my head. It's sort of the way I like to do things. I don't know. It's just something about it. It's just a lot of fun. However, I'm not a huge fan of the mess. But what I've got to do is just come up with my base design for the floor using all the plate work. So what I'm doing is using light gray plate, and then my support plate underneath is actually white, and it overhangs by 1 stud, so then I can get that odd dimension all figured out. Once I got the plate work done, I decided to make a small change to the ground floor. I actually had to change a pillar that was 2x3 to 2x2, just because it wasn't working out with the design up top. So there's actually slopes going around the perimeter of the building, except for in the corners where I have 2x2 bricks. I like the slopes just because it sort of angles upward a bit and insets those windows 1 stud. Now I also wanted to try and add another dimension to this build, so what I've decided to do is add some curved windows. I'm just going to do that in 1 corner. Potentially I could do it in 2, but there are some part constraints in regards to the curved plates, like the corner plates. I don't have a whole lot of those in light gray. In fact, I only have 1, so I am making some weird part substitutions to try and make that work. But I get my windows in, I get the panels between the windows, get it all spaced nicely. It's all capped off in red plate. There's like a layer of it above the windows, just like on the ground floor, and then also white brick on top of that. And then once I get the brick laid and the plate laid, it's time to lock it all together with tile and also some modified 1x4 plates with the 2 studs, so that I can easily attach the next floor. So it's all tiled off nicely, and it's going to be 100% modular. Now I do mess around with a bunch of different parts where that curved window is. Once again, I've got some part constraints issues with that, but I think I've come up with a pretty good design, and it's not too shabby. Huge mess in my building studio here. It's actually crazy, so I always like to do a little bit of tidy up while I'm building these things, just so I have a place to work. So you can always see me just sorting parts in the background every now and again. So once I get the first floor done, it's time to start constructing the second floor. At least I have the template now, so it should be a lot faster. I just make, once again, another floor. So first I do the plate work, get all the white support plate underneath that light gray, lay all my slopes, put the bricks in the corner, do the layer of red plate. Then I start laying the window glass, trans blue 1x6x5 glass panels, get all those put in, and then I put the pillars between them so it's all even and matches the second floor that we built there. And then the layer of red plate once again, then the brick, and get it all capped off. So just got to try and repeat this process. However, there is an issue. I am running out of the 1x6x5 glass panels. I want to try and add as many floors to this as possible. So right now we've got the ground floor and then 2 floors above. I am struggling to find the parts for one last floor. I decided to do something that I probably shouldn't have. There were some really nice glass panels in the mansion pool. I had Deadpool in it, he was chilling, and guess what? I removed all the water. I had to make one more modification to the pillars on the ground floor as well. They were sort of loosey-goosey, so I actually decided to connect them using some arch pieces and then some plate that matches the style from the ground floor. And that's just going to provide the upper floors a little bit more support. Now you see how the top floors actually span the entire hospital, so they go over top of the garage. So I know the first, or the ground floor was pretty small, but the second, third, and fourth floors are actually pretty big, and they've got a lot of space. Now, unfortunately, there is no elevator shaft in there. It's sort of in a strange position. The elevator is actually going to have to go offset, sort of in the center of the room. So I've got to build elevator shafts, fake ones. Once again, there's not going to actually be an elevator, but I'm going to build fake elevator shafts when I get around to adding details to this mock here. Now I've been going actually for quite some time. This took me a long time. I know this time lapse, well, it's actually longer than your average time lapse, I would say, but it has taken me quite a bit of time just sort of cleaning up and parting out the old one, and also just coming up with the spacing and making sure that I get everything correct. Right now I'm actually starting to build the roof, and for some reason I zipped through, the first floor wasn't too bad, second floor I zipped through it, third floor I zipped through it, but then the roof, it just took me a little bit longer. I think there was a little bit of fatigue, maybe a little bit of hunger involved. It took me a little bit longer. There was definitely some trial and error with the roof, but I'm pretty much creating the exact same base as the other floors using all of the plate. And then I decided to actually frame it using some slopes and some corner slopes, just because that sort of matches the other floors. And then I actually topped that with red tile. It's sort of bold. I'm not sure if I like the red tile. It does stand out. There is going to be a helicopter on top, a helicopter pad on top of the roof, so I sort of want this to be visible from the sky so the pilots know where they're coming. I decided to put the elevator shaft on the roof just to sort of test a little design using some light gray panels and also some 1x1x5 white panels in the corner. And then once I get that all leveled off, I just cap it with a 6x6 light gray plate. And then once I got that all dealt with, it's time to add the helicopter pad. And the helicopter pad is actually elevated off the ground by 1 brick so that the helicopter does have clearance over top of that elevator shaft. So I was pretty happy that I was able to add some roof details, and it definitely caps this building off quite nicely. So now the exterior is all dealt with, and it looks pretty good, but my studio space, on the other hand, not looking too good at all. Definitely got to do some part sorting and some cleanup. That is a priority. So yeah, as I was mentioning, we've got some little detail up here with the elevator shaft. I might add a covering to that, but I'm not sure if it's necessary. I know in real life, of course, it would probably be covered and there would be a doorway going into it, but I just don't want to make it look too bulky up here, right? And as I was mentioning, the helicopter blades, no problem, they pass over the helicopter, so it's somewhat realistic, I guess, that pilot could just come in there. Now, I did put these on the roof. After I was finished constructing it, I realized, oh yeah, I wanted to add a skylight, and I thought these pieces would look really cool as some sort of skylight for the hospital. So probably do that, and then maybe I'll add some sort of heating unit or ventilation right back there when I get around to adding details. I've been going all day My studio space is a lot better besides that bucket on the right-hand side there. And I just don't have enough time to add details, unfortunately. I've been dealing with some other stuff this morning as well. And yeah, we've got the helicopter pad there. It's up off the roof by one brick. Not too bad, little staircase going up to it there. And then I really like this H. I decided to keep that design as long as it's straight. I guess it looks pretty good. And the nice red beam actually goes all the way up to the roof. That's original design as well, and actually extends off the building one more stud when you compare it to the corner white beams. And you can just see the even distribution of the red plate that goes above and below the windows, and then everything else is the brick. And I think the slopes do a great job of insetting those windows one stud. This is the design that I came up with for the corner window. You see what I mean about some part constraints? We've got a white one there, and then we've got a light gray one there. I would much prefer it to be all light gray. I probably got to add like a plant or something maybe to these available studs. That might look pretty cool. And then eventually I've got to change up that corner plate there. And I'm not sure what I should do here. Like, I made it adapt. I put one of those large like macaroni bricks there, and also a quarter round tile to try and blend that in. Then we got some more windows. These ones have the 1x white panels in between them. Same with this one here, and this is just a whole like solid set of windows, but it is symmetrical on either side. I was really happy with the ambulance pull through, and glad that I decided to actually connect these two beams. They were sort of flip-flopping all over the place. So I just put some arches. Those are the only arches that I have. I wish I had some larger arches. In fact, there are two different arches on either side. You can see the interior arch is actually different than the exterior arch. Maybe one day when I get some larger arches, I'll improve the look of that, but just sort of using what I have. And there's the elevator shaft like from the backside. So originally, as I was mentioning, I had to change this, but I originally had it just follow the same pattern. But now that it's light gray, you can sort of tell that maybe there's an elevator of some sort there. Unfortunately, it doesn't like bulk out here because that would get in the way of the pull through of the ambulance. So I decided to make it flat, so it's not a realistic like thickness, but on the other floors, it's going to be the same as this elevator shaft, and I'll have that run through here. That might interfere a bit with the windows. I honestly can't stand adding elevators and staircases. To be honest with you, I'm doing it for the commenters, to tell you the truth. I personally just wouldn't even add that detail. I know it's a cool detail, but I don't know. I just think it uses unnecessary space because it's going to interfere with like my ability to put rooms in and maybe have different rooms, whatever. I'll leave it at that. I sort of like them. They look good in the end, but I can go without building a staircase or an elevator and I would be able to sleep at night. But I think it looks pretty good. I love the fact that I added the rounded window. Once again, I wish that I had the parts to have this corner of the roof match that, but I straight up don't. So I made this like a little spike from it for now. I don't think you'll really be able to see that and be sort of, you know, ticked off at it when it's in the Lego City. Why don't we place this in the Lego City? I know there's no interior details and I know it's not finished, but I just want to see what it looks like beside some other buildings. So the ambulance pull through is pretty cool, but the thing is about the pull through is it sort of limits my ability of putting it among other buildings. It can't really go in a block that is 2 buildings wide because there has to be a pull through. So the only place where it can go is where the construction site used to be, which is right there, which I actually really don't mind. It really does stand out there, and it's neat how the ambulance can pull through. Unfortunately, it's going to have to go over some railroad track. I cannot relocate my railroad just because of this pillar, and I can't remove the pillar, otherwise my basement will collapse. So that's really not an option. But then I also have to if I do decide to put it here, I'd have to modify one of these roads so that it connects through. Now, one thing that I could do if, for example, I wanted to put it somewhere else and I didn't think that it looks good there. Oh, I didn't modify that yet either. That's funny. But if I was like, okay, I don't want to put that there. Well, I could just make that elevator shaft like pop out a bit there and then just close that off. And it could go pretty much anywhere. It could just be a corner build anywhere. And rather than that being an ambulance pull through, it could just be like a parking spot for the ambulance. So that's always a choice as well. At least that modification would be like extremely easy to make. So that's not too bad. I really like the position of it there. I'm not sure if it's going to stay there. Like I've been mentioning in my previous videos, this like whole block, like this whole skyscraper region is going to get all shuffled around. I've just been sort of scrambling, not really scrambling, but I've just been putting all my, not all of it, but what am I saying? I've been putting a lot of my effort into building tall buildings for this block, and this is the one that I'm really excited about. Actually, now that I look at it, I just don't even think that it needs any more floors. I think it's the perfect height. Now, I made a mistake. I don't think it was a mistake. I think it's a happy mistake. But remember how I was saying that I like to have it inset 4 studs? Just because then the skyscrapers don't bump into each other. There's actually breathing room. I didn't do that on the far side. But I don't think it's the end of the world, because if I put it next to a building that is inset 4 studs, then it'll be fine. There'll still be 4 studs of breathing room between the hospital and the other building. So yeah, not too bad. There we go, everybody. It's my new and improved hospital. Interior details still pending. Make sure you stay tuned for that update. Let me know what you think of it by commenting below. I think it's substantially better than the existing one, and I think it's popping here in the Lego City. Thank you so much for coming on by. Please remember to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Farewell.